I think I'm back. Okay, yeah, I had some technical difficulties. I purchased a new phone. I got an iPhone 14 Pro to get some B-roll video, but I'm also subscribed to Google, which does an automatic backup. And FYI, if you try to back up on Google, it will destroy your Wi-Fi. I mean, just everything goes super slow when you're trying to back up on your Wi-Fi. So we're going to start the stream over. Today is January 19th, 2023, and we are still working on the design process for our tiger painting. We want to show perseverance. We want to show never giving up, embodying the tiger in a painting in one single image. So we started this out by getting clear on our idea, using the design process here, document here that will be shared in the resources on my Gumroad. Please see the description or the link in the description. But the first thing we did was we wrote out everything, got clear, did some object drawing, and then we did some camera angle drawing, which I believe I moved my tiger around from the camera angle area. I need to put that tiger back. He was right here. Yeah, figured out some camera angles within that. Then we did a bunch of thumbnail sketches. Actually, we took 2 streams to do all these thumbnail sketches. Good morning again, Thinker. Yeah, I had some technical difficulties there. My internet connection was destroyed by an iPhone. Had to put it in airplane mode. Still working with a new phone, trying to figure out the workflow there. So we did one live stream of these first 5 thumbnail sketches, 1 through 5. We loved number 3, and then did 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I picked number 8 as the one that we're going to be going for. Thanks everyone for the input on that. You've made these compositions even better, definitely. And then I took number 8 and I brought it down here into the composition sketch area so that we wouldn't have to redraw our entire composition. Now it's all about details, not extreme details, just getting a bit more detailed on this. And the tiger that we used, I have to find it again, was this guy here. I pulled this from Dreamstime. I can see the little Dreamstime logo on there. And what I need to do is get the larger version of this image. And I believe it's in projects, art, tiger painting, and this guy here. Yeah, this is a tiger. So what's important is that when you pull down these images, don't buy them right away, right? You're using them for, just kind of looking at details and things like that, figuring out your composition, and then afterwards, when you say, okay, I really do need this image, I'm going to be pulling, and we basically picked this entire tiger, right? One thing I do need to check is to see if this is a Sumatran tiger, but I'll be using this tiger to get in some details in our composition, from top to bottom on this one. So I'm going to try and purchase this from the photographer that took it. I'm not sure where it's from exactly. Hopefully, maybe this is from a zoo. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not, but we're going to change the background up. The most important thing is that it's a Sumatran tiger. And so what I'm going to do is just go into Dreamstime here. And the photo, like if I go into the folder where I organize everything, that's another thing, being really organized with all your images. Hey, look, 1 week free trial. Maybe I can get these 15 images free trial. There you go. I'll have to use that. for this one image. Maybe I can get a few images from this, maybe for future things. So there you go. Probably a great idea there. So if I look at the, oh, this is actually Siberian tiger, not a Sumatran tiger. But it also has Amur tiger on it. It's a young. So I'm looking at the description of the image, because when you download these, the description is really long, and usually you can refine it again. Probably what I'll do, wow, lots of ads, is copy out that description. See if I can get to it right away. Or maybe there's a number in it. Probably, oh, there it is. So I just copied the description from the image itself and just threw it right into Dreamtime and got right to it. It's not this one because that one's at an angle. It's this guy right here. So yeah, I can download this image for free from Dreamtime if I sign up for their 15-day free trial or 15 image free trial, which is all over the place. So that I'm going to take advantage of that, but we don't need it right now. I'll do that off stream. I know you guys were wanting me to put my credit card number on stream, but I am a little bit smarter than that. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be fun and challenging at the same time, because I'm gonna be drawing and painting details on the, live, which is never too easy, right? I've had a lot of practice in this though, painting things live. The one thing I will do is I'm gonna zoom way out. And a lot of times when I'm working from imagery, I need it close to what I'm working on, and all of the background kind of gets in the way. It prevents me from getting the image close to what I want. So I'm going to outline it, the tiger itself, Control-Shift-I to reverse that, and then hit delete. And now it doesn't need to be perfect. That's all I need, just to get some of that outline or that background out of the way, so I can just focus on the tiger drawing. What are you focused on changing across the tree composition sketch? What are you focused on changing across the 3 composition sketches? Yeah, good question. And this is where my handy dandy awesome sheet comes in play, because I have it all up here as a reminder. Number 1, it's going to be nothing but value scale. As you can see, it's more than 3 colors. I've added 2 more here. So we have an extra 2 colors. What's interesting about that is I use a different brush that has, texture to it. So I got a lot of those values in our thumbnail sketch anyways. Normally the thumbnail sketches are supposed to be a lot of sharp angles and things like that, but I kind of didn't do that. We enlarge it. That's easy. We just did that. Shapes. Looking at shape language. How can I describe shape language? We talked about before how different shapes mean different things. And what I may try and push on here is a bit more angularity. If I came in here and I did a bunch of circles, right? And, in a general idea. So we got all these circles, right? Oh, he looks like he's surprised. That's funny. Circle for the body, the back, these kind of things. It's kind of a fluffy bear. Circles are, and ellipses too. These kind of forms are all soft and safe. And it doesn't scream action to us. It doesn't scream danger. It's safe and fluffy, you know. But if I was to do the tiger, you know, in sharp angles, right? Especially if I can get some really sharp angles in here, but I don't see a lot that are super sharp. Maybe this shadow here that has like a you know, a spike at the end, or right up here where we have this kind of sharp edge. Now we have more action, we have more threat, we have more danger. There you go, dangerous eyes. It's funny. So thinking about shapes within that way, you know, what kind of language do we have within the shapes, which I think is important. Well, yeah, all of this is important. It depends on if it's important within your own composition. You know, sometimes, you know, shape language is probably, well, could be somewhat important. And you'll find that you'll have a particular shape language that you work with. Maybe you work in a lot of straight angles and things like that. Happens even with negative space, you know, this kind of shape language. It's all about interest and communication. So shapes, negative space, we've already looked at that. Tangents, we did within the composition, we did tangents, and it's something to always kind of look out for. There's not a lot of players happening here, not a lot of actors within this. A tangent would be something like, let's say I drew out the side of this tiger, right, all the way down, and then I had a palm frond that came in and just touched right there and did this kind of thing. It just touched. There's a confusion of what is in front and what is in back. So we want to look out for things that are just barely touching, and then, you know, make a determination. Is that going to go in front of or behind? Where is it going? It could be even, you know, where you do like a palm frond comes out to there and just touches like right there. Better to just pull it all the way in and go behind the tiger or go over the tiger, right? So that's tangents. We'll look at line rhythm. Oh, I'm trying to remember all this stuff about line rhythm. We'll have to come back to line rhythm. Thinker, do you remember line rhythm? Maybe I'll go back through my notes. Let's see. I have a tendency to talk too much on these. See if I can actually find it. I feel like with this music in the background, I feel like I'm in, what's that movie? Oh, jeez. Blade Runner. The Blade Runner movie. Oh, line rhythm. Okay, so I looked it up. So remember we were talking about like calligraphy and everything? Now, there's a line rhythm that every artist has, and I think this is more towards illustration. When you're talking about gestures, when you're talking about certain illustrative styles, lots of lines are used. As you know, as a painter, well, we don't use a ton of lines. There's not a lot of, you know, hard outlines to things. It doesn't get very illustrative and graphical. So if I was getting very graphical with this tiger, you know, like an illustration, I would have to think about all of these lines and what am I using, you know, how am I using them? So that's all about line rhythm. Cropping objects. Oh, wow. Did we even talk about that? Let's move on to big, medium, small, because as I looked at that really quickly, I need to get some smaller objects in there. I have my big object, right? The tiger. I have kind of a medium here and a medium there, but I really don't have any like small objects, and I think that the background can help us with that. Eye movement. So here we're going to be focusing on trying to move the eye, or whoever's viewing this around the canvas. Well, not moving them around the composition, but specifically keeping them in one place, and that's where I want to keep them. So we'll make sure that we don't have anything that interferes with that, and maybe if we have too much detail down here, could pull the eye movement away, or too much light, too much difference in value. One focal point, no problem. Implied lines. We'll be using a lot of kind of implied line, or well, actually more leading lines with these palm fronds. Balance check, we looked at that within the composition. This is kind of an off center in most places, but this small frond down here really balances it out. We're using the rule of thirds. Wow, that was way off, those thirds. So the tiger is directly on a third, just about. Yeah, that's still way off. Yeah, something like that. And then unity. Wow, I just put unity down there. There's like a million things inside of unity. There's line rhythm, anatomy, detail, style, and color. So, but unity is one big thing because you want to keep it all around the same of all of those. So style, like anatomy, detail, style, and color. If I, the same, maybe not the same detail throughout because I won't use that, but at least similar colorations, right? And then 30, 33 and 3 rule, so that'd be 33. How good does it look way out here? Does it still read? And then all the way zoomed in. Need to make sure that we get both of those. So that's all that stuff. And then eventually I'll get into the other ones. There's so much preamble to this. I just want to get drawing now. So let's get moving. First thing that we need to get right is the head of the tiger and the eye of the tiger. Rocky. Yep. The eye of the tiger. Okay. I'm going to move this over to the right and in the center because my hand works better that way because I'm right-handed, and I wish I could have the tiger on the left-hand side, but there's no space over there. There's actually a program that I used to have where you could put your reference in it. I forget what it's called. Okay, I immediately started with detail here. On the ears. Is that where we need to start, Chris? No, what we need to start with is kind of like the broad shape. So let's, always kind of questioning where you're at. Well, let me adjust this brush again because the strength, I don't like the strength on it. I'm going to save a new brush preset so I don't lose this again. I should have changed the look of it. That's okay. Oh, and I even saved the size of it. Darn it. Okay, I'll have to fix that later. No big deal. All right, so the general outline of this tiger, trying to get that right. Or at least their head. And I want to fan out the hair on the sides a bit. And the other thing that I want to do is push the distance that the muzzle comes out. So I could say, you know, the bottom of the chin is that part of the muzzle, and it has these angles to it. You notice I'm working in a lot of straight lines here. Straight lines are much easier to judge angles and distances from. And when you're drawing, those are the two things that you need to worry about, the only two things. Angles and distance, because that's what you're trying to judge. Is the angle of the forehead, you know, is that the same angle of the brow? What's the distance between the two eyes? What's the width between each tear duct in the eyes, so I can get the width of the entire eye? See, that's kind of there. But there's a lot of hair that happens in this tiger, but the skull, from what I can tell, runs this way. And on the other side. And then it gets obscured by so much hair. Okay, I need to get the placement of these things correct. Now the angle of the brow is almost perfectly horizontal. Which would make the angle of the nose, the angle of the mouth, and the angle of the chin the same. What I don't have is a correct angle here, I think. Yeah, I need to move everything over just a little bit. But that's fine because I'm on a new layer. I can just outline that, hit T, move that over to the right a little bit. Because if you see the stripe down the center of the tiger's head, it flows, you know, from the back of the head to the nose at that type of angle. I'm looking at planes. Let's start with, or let's continue on and really get some simple planes in here. So I see this forehead plane. I'm going to move this up above the tiger so I can kind of illustrate this on the tiger himself as well, or themselves. Okay, we need a... No, that red should be fine. Red on orange doesn't show well. So looking at that plane there, and this is kind of like the back of the skull back here. It kind of splits off. Then we have the cone of the ears. Yeah. What's interesting, or what's going to happen, what's going to happen with this is a couple things. Once we get these composition sketches done, and we know where we're going to take this drawing, or this painting, we got it pretty much all planned out as far as, you know, hopefully composition, value, color, all these kind of things. General palette. And I'll even have some time drawing this like I'm doing right now, which is really important. Because, I mean, if you were in a production environment, movie industry, whatever, and they needed to give you needed to give them a comp of a tiger. Yeah, you can't spend this much time on it. You know, you would have to go a lot faster. So that's in the wrong place. So at that point, if you needed to go that, you know, much faster with your drawing, with creating this comp, you would just trace, honestly. And then, you know, after you trace it, you get the structure of the tiger. Then you bring your own interpretation of it in, because it does have to lead to that interpretation. I mean, in that scenario, you're hired on as a concept artist, and that's what they want. They hired you because they like your portfolio and what you do. And what I'm doing here is just kind of figuring out some shapes on the image itself. But for this painting, and I'm talking about two things at once here, sorry. For this painting, because we are not under that time constraint, I have an opportunity there. We're going to work it up. We're going to do these drawings like this, just pulling from the image itself. And once we get the structure and everything laid out the way we want, I'm going to get much more exact with the drawing, probably with the image itself, a bit more, I'm not going to say tracing per se, but drawing it out maybe with a grid, you know, starting with our composition, drawing it out with a grid, and then really heavily using, you know, especially within the face of the tiger and the head, using a grid to get that right on. But right now, as an artist, I want to get an understanding of the tiger. Because this will help me paint. Because even though if, you know, I'm doing some tutorials right now, and I'm using a grid to help me check my drawing. Actually, these should be like straight across from each other. I'm using a grid to help my drawing, but only I'm not tracing from it. What I'm doing is just using it to get feedback, objective feedback on accuracy. See, this kind of looks like nothing right now because what I'm doing is gaining understanding here. In a lot of ways, the anatomy of this head, the skull, has so many similarities to humans, right? We have this big forehead, we have this transition space into our nose, of course, you know. This is a huge nose. Let's see if I can get that angle right. It's almost straight down. Okay, this one goes to the side. And now probably, you know, the most important are the eyes, which are really at the top of this structure. And I mean, comparatively tiny with the rest of the head. There's a really nice ellipse that's happening there. So the distance from the eyes to the nose. I think I got mine too far down. Probably one of the most important things about drawing and doing this all the time, drawing all the time, is you're training your brain to recognize distances quickly and easily. I mean, that's really, and angles, distances and angles. That's all you need for accuracy. And what's the distance from here to here, so you can get that eye shape? What's the distance from the top of the brow to the bottom of the chin? Judging that, right? What's the angle of this side of the head, or that angle? The angle of the arm. The distance between here and here as it relates to the entirety of the tiger. I'm gonna flare this muzzle out a bit more. I'm using all these construction lines as well. There's a lot of construction lines that go into this, and fortunately within digital they're so easy to just remove. And I can see that my chin needs, it's the side of the chin starts there, and it's just a little bit larger than the width of the nose. So wherever I have the nose, I need to bring it in the chin. And I don't think it goes down that far as well. And the flow of this, so hopefully you can see, and this is what it's all about, just learning to see. I'm gonna try a different color. Bet you blue would look better. Yeah, somewhat. Green? No. Yellow? No. I think it's probably this brush. If I had this brush and a little bit larger with that red, yeah, that illustrates it a bit better. Kind of forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah. So we have this amazing kind of skull structure, and I see this only because I've looked at much human anatomy, basically. And you can see it within the tiger, that forehead shape, this change in direction there, the top of the nose, that's like the most obvious, these jowls, the front of the nose, the front of the muzzle, the chin, but then it flows back. I mean, we're dealing with a three-dimensional object, so it doesn't go straight out on each side, right? If you were an ant and you were crawling over the head of this tiger, you would start here and go down and back, down and back, and around. So we need to always remember that and try to, as hard as we can to, or as much as we can, not as hard as we can, to describe that form. I always like to use, contour lines. Get that understanding. We could do that on the inside of the nose here, or the outside of the nose, how it kind of flows down. We have these wonderful lines of where the whiskers end up, and that gives a nice indication of the thickness or the curve of the muzzle there. I'm doing more of a constructive drawing than anything. I think, well, at least for myself, it's important for me to do that and to get this right. Where does that hit? I draw a lot of verticals and horizontals. A lot of times I'll do it in my head. For example, and we could do this really easy digitally. Shift B, and we have a perfectly vertical line. So I'm looking at, you know, this point here. I can draw a vertical line up and see where it meets on the ear. And that's one thing that I look for a lot, are these points where two angles meet and it makes a, you know, a point right there. That is a point that you can measure from. I mean, we have them all over the place on this tiger, and over everything you're drawing. You just have to look for them. The most obvious ones, you know, the points, these 3 points that are made from the nose, the tear ducts are other points. Where things cross into other things, you know, that's making a point. Each of these things you can measure from. Trying to measure, like if you have this curve here, the soft curve, trying to measure from there is very, very difficult because it's not definite, it's not objective enough. But if you have the ear hitting here and there, that's the point you want to measure from. And so you can do it on this side. Okay, I have these 2 points and I can definitely see this is the angle. And then all I need to do is, if I have that angle, I just need to figure out the distance between the two. Okay. Now, if I've defined something that is right, quote unquote, correct on my drawing, let's say that as I'm drawing, I have defined that the shape of the nose is going to be my correct point. It's going to be the one point that I say, no matter what, this is right. You know, that little triangle in the center. Because it's your drawing, it's your painting. You can establish anything as the correct point. And it's usually better to do it in a small way, in my opinion. A lot of artists will tell you to start out in these kind of broad shapes, and then you work into it like a sculptor would and keep focusing on that. But I've found that if you get something right, that you define as right, such as, and it's probably better if I just illustrate this. So if I'm drawing this tiger, and I look at the easiest thing that I know on here that I can see, and it's this nose, and I say that that is right. It could be this big compared to, you know, my composition. But if I define that as right, everything gets measured from it. Does that make sense? Like, right is not this image. That is not the correct size of anything, because you as the artist adjust that size based on what you're drawing. So you draw that nose in, you say that that's right, and you measure everything against it. So you would do something like get the width of the nose, and then figure out 2 things. Maybe you do a vertical, you have the edge of this nose, you can draw a line up, and then you go, oh wow, that goes right through the center of the right eye. Okay, right through the pupil. So what's the distance? So if I take my correct measurement of the distance between either side of the nose, how many of those does it take to get up to there? Like right at the pupil. You know, maybe it's, if I look at this, I'd say 1 and just a little bit. And yes, these are the kind of measurements that you'll have. So one of the widths of the nose would go up to about right here. So you could say like 1 and maybe a third. But when you get into anything divided smaller like that, it gets a bit harder. But that's got you close. So you could say, okay, here's the width, you know, on your drawing, there's the width of my nose. So I'll put it here. And then maybe like with my stylus, I'm measuring up, and then the eye would be up there, you know, along this line. And then I know it's going to go all the way like directly up from that side of the nose. So the pupil is basically right there. And now you define that as correct. So you've gotten where the pupil is. And because you have that, you could get, maybe you measure the distance between the distance that you created between these 2 points. And you see how that measures for the other pupil, which is going to be out here somewhere. But once you have the one pupil, then you can draw a line across and go, oh, okay, that angle, it just barely angles down. And then if I draw a vertical there, it's just a little bit outside of this vertical, so probably about right there, you know, and now you have, you know, this 3-point thing, right? So you just keep kind of working that way. I hope all that made sense. But this is how I work within my drawings. Defining something correct and then measuring everything from that. And the more that you get measured, the more possibilities of measurement you have. It's like you have created not one ruler, but 20. You know, I get all the features correct inside of the head, and then I get the head itself correct. Now I have the top and the bottom of the head that I can measure against the entire body, you know, things like this. And you use anything. Like right now, I'm going to be using this stripe on the tiger right here. And I want to figure out, you know, this kind of end of the shadow in that space. So, you know, what's the distance there? If I take the, you know, top of the nose to the chin, it's the same distance. So what I've defined on my canvas, you know, my drawing could be incorrect as far as that's concerned. But I'm going to throw it in because, you know, we're not going to be done with this drawing right away. You don't just do it once and say, okay, yeah, that's good enough, and let it go. No, we have a whole freaking oil painting to do on this guy, right? What we want to do is work out all this, you know, put the hard work in at the beginning so that when you get into the oil painting, it's a breeze. You're like, I don't have to worry about drawing. I don't have to worry about value. I don't have to worry about color. I mean, well, you do kind of have to worry about that, but all the major lifting is done at that point. Because, you know, even if you trace your initial drawing onto your canvas, you will be covering that up. Oh, I love this shadow. You will be covering that up with your paint. That's another reason why this is so important, because you'll start to see things that you didn't before. For example, make my brush bigger. This is a big shadow shape all down in here. It really outlines everything, which is nice. It's very nice. And I want to push that shadow, because remember, we're getting the form of the tiger, okay? Getting an understanding of it, because we're going to light it completely different than what we see over there. And in order to light something, You have to understand how the form wraps around it. That's why all the tutorials start with spheres. You'll see them, they're going to be teaching you with a sphere or an egg. These are recognizable objects that we know. Right off the bat, I know how an egg feels and how the form wraps around it. Just slowly working this tiger up. Getting too detailed with the curves. Always, always, always. When you're working, straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line. And you could even generalize that more. Straight, straight, straight. Get that shape in first. Don't worry about this, how it curves out slightly, then curves in, and then curves back, that kind of thing. Get the generalized straight lines down, because it's easier to judge those angles. Like, I can see it stops here, which is right above that little place we put for the shadow to end. And it goes out, continues out. I could probably just generalize that into this one whole shape here. And then the angle that it drops down. It sounds like we're in Game of Thrones now. This is not from Game of Thrones. This is downloaded from Epidemic Sound. Definitely influenced by Game of Thrones. Here's a question for you, thinker. What music do you like to listen to while you're drawing or painting? Oh, and you have a question for me as well. So the next sketch will use the wireframe to inform the value shapes. I could either do that or work it up in the same sketch. It's really up to you as the artist. I feel like, getting that understanding, and that's a really good point. I don't want to lose all of this wireframe that I'm doing. It's a good word for it. I don't want to lose the entirety of the wireframe. So maybe the next one will do that. Let's see. Okay, this is really important here. So right as this part comes down and blends into the side of the tiger, and that comes out, the huge separation between the front and the back, and it blends in right there. That's just the whole side of the tiger. But then you see it kind of resurface again here. Wonderful opportunity there. And then the more I look at this, and the stripes are wonderful. I mean, tigers are going to be a lot easier to draw because the stripes are telling you everything about the form. Look at this. I mean, the tiger was built to wireframe itself out for you. It's telling you exactly how to draw me. This is my form. I can even see back here how it kind of gets concave and then comes back out. And then this, if you know cats, I have cats. There's this kind of like pooch that happens back there of just skin. It's interesting how similar, there's so much similarities between this big tiger and my little tigers. Okay. So I'm going to try and capture that with a general angle. Because I do a lot of traditional work, I find it very easy to just take my stylus, put it against my screen and find angles and things like that. I wonder if some of the most professional people out there do that, or if they're like, no, that's just kind of weird. I would never do it that way. So what is correct? head, I'm going to call correct in this area. So if I want to get this, what do you call it? Elbow? No, that's kind of, that would be the shoulder. No, shoulders, okay, elbow. Drop a line straight down from this part of the tiger. And it's pretty far down. It's like down here. Drop it down a bit more. So I like listening to instrumental and rock from my early years while painting. Ah, the early years. Yeah, I know how old you are because we spoke before, so I won't reveal that on a live broadcast, but the early years. So my in-laws, love my in-laws. They're awesome. I know a lot of music that they used to listen to. Like, I don't think they were deep into rock though. They were like, they loved like the Mamas and the Papas. I'm kind of all over the place, really. I like this music for the live stream because I can talk over it. It's not a problem. I can focus. It's not a big deal. It's kind of, you know, music, kind of easy listening. But when I'm painting, like I'm deep into it. I can listen to things with lyrics. Doesn't really matter. I mean, a lot of times I'll be dancing and moving and gyrating all over the place while I'm painting, you know, especially when I'm like deep into it, just really focused. I think some of that movement, that energy that you get from music, I like to transfer into my painting. And it depends on the painting as well. You know, if I'm doing a very calm scene of a landscape, I wouldn't listen to, you know, just crazy, hard music. I'm really going to be using these stripes to help with the form. It's going to be pretty easy to describe the form on a tiger in a painting. And I may have made my drawing of the tiger too big, but guess what? We're in digital. Just select it, transform, and it's great. What is different about the Sumatran versus the Bengal or Siberian tigers? I wouldn't want to get you in trouble with your wife. So I think the most important thing that I want to understand about that is I don't want to do a Bengal tiger because they are not endangered. But this is a Siberian tiger. I think I have to look for status in that way. Yeah, so Siberian tiger is endangered. Let's look at Sumatran tiger status. Sadly, fewer than 400 of those tigers are on the planet. They don't give a count on this one. Wow. Even the Bengal tiger. Bengal tiger is listed as endangered in Nepal, India, and Bhutan, while Bangladesh and China listed as critically endangered. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble. That's really sad. It's really sad that I won't get in trouble with any of this because all these tigers look to be endangered. I won't get too deep into this, but I do want to bring it up because as a person that cares a lot about the environment, our planet, because it's the only place we have, and the whole idea of moving to another planet is a ridiculous option that will never happen within our lifetimes. As a person that cares about it and does, and me and my wife do everything that we can as Americans living in America right now, there are things that we can do in our day-to-day lives that you don't know about, many people don't know about, to help species around the planet. And it's all about our habits. And most of the things that you can change that will help these endangered species, not just tigers, but elephants, orangutans, many species in other countries, these big flora and fauna, big fauna that we love to see at zoos and in movies and videos and things like that. It's all about your day-to-day habits. One of the biggest proponents to deforestation, if you looked, I quickly looked at, the endangerment of all these tigers, which is based solely in, mainly in habitat loss, not solely in habitat loss, but mainly in habitat loss, is the production of palm oil, which is a very cheap oil alternative, vegetable oil. And if you do any research whatsoever on health and well-being, you will find that vegetable oils are one of the leading causes to many of the biggest diseases, the 4 killers for us humans. Cancer. What are the 4 killers? Cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and there's one other one. Can't remember the 4th one. Oh, heart disease. Yeah, those 4. And these kind of vegetable oils contribute to that. It's a very cheap oil to produce, and there are huge companies out there, bigger than the petroleum industry, that control palm oil and create a lot of... I am getting deep into it. I said I wasn't getting deep into it, but they create a lot of confusing scientific spin on it, just like with climate change and all that. You'll see confusing things all over the place because one person says it's all completely natural, and the other scientist says no, just look at the data. But this big corporation puts a lot of money into it. But anyway, coming back to your habits, because a lot of times you'll see these really sad things and it's like, well, what the hell can I do about it? I'm just trying to make a living, right? just trying to live my life. And a lot of times they don't give these kind of indications of what you can do about it. And you know what? It starts at your grocery store. It starts with your habits. If you look at just about everything at the grocery store, it has palm oil in it. Even shampoos, conditioners, everything has palm oil. If you could avoid palm oil, it's one of the biggest changes that you can affect on the planet. And then, you know, the next argument is, well, I'm just one person. What am I going to do? Yeah. The one thing I will say about that, and this goes, you know, I'm sorry I'm getting into this, but this goes into a lot larger ideas of habit and well-being and changes of your life and things like this, is there's a line, okay? So here, let's say, we'll call it a red line. And here it is. Here is the line. And anything within your life, on one line is X, on one side is X, on one side is Y. And you may call X good and Y bad. And you get to define which is good and which is bad. And then you also get to decide what side you want to be on. So regardless if there's 10 million people on this side and you feel like you're one person, and just because you pick up that one piece of trash that may not amount, you feel doesn't amount to anything, at least you're on that side, right? You did your part. And I think that's really important. Life Lessons by Chris Bevan on a live stream. Okay. I've got far enough into this stream and into this drawing where what I want to do now is kind of step back a bit and do some checking. So I made the tiger smaller, but I'm going to remove my drawing and I'm going to change the opacity of this tiger so that it fits in the place that we want, at least the height. It's interesting how, you know, I got the head right. Well, maybe the head's a little bit large on here, but in my initial thumbnail, I can see that the body isn't high enough, or it's too big. So I would rather show the paws just a little bit at the bottom. So that's kind of the orientation we want to go for. Okay, so that's the height. Bring my drawing back and zoom way in. And actually, you know, that's too confusing. I can't see what's going on, but what I can do is get, you know, even this close of a comparison. So, and then let's zoom out. And this is a tendency that I do all the time. I will grow the body as I go down. So it's not too bad, honestly. The head's a bit big, the muzzle and everything's a bit big because I was focusing on that. But we do have some corrections that we can make within all that. Yeah, not too bad. I'm trying to think of the best way to make this correction. And do I need to for right now? Getting that understanding, you know, this doesn't have to be perfectly accurate, I think is important. What I am going to do is Control Z all the way back to my big tiger size. Go back in time through my, you know, environmental discussion. Sorry about that, Thinker. I think you're the only one on the live stream, so sorry about that for any future people. They're like, oh, he's preaching. Yeah, sorry. There's certain things I feel strong about, and look how beautiful this tiger is. I want this to stay on our planet. I want your children and your children's children to be able to see one of these in person. So that's important to me. Okay. we got pretty far with this. Pretty darn far. And I think the next stream is I'll get in here and I'll do some deeper corrections within the body of this tiger and figure that out. Yeah. And then still in the same composition sketch, what I'm going to do is begin to figure out the exact placement for all of our background elements as well. I think that's really important before going on to like a lighting situation. Yeah. So kind of wireframing everything up. But I'm happy with what I was able to achieve today, what we were able to achieve. Thank you again, Thinker, for showing up every day and being my companion on these live streams. At some point, hopefully, I'll get more people to show up, but it is a strange time, and it works out for me. All right. Thanks a bunch. I'll see you guys tomorrow.